What blew me away was your client list. Mr. Beast is a client.
Very first Squid Game in real life ever.
We're really viral at the moment, and we've got the customer base, and holy dooly, it's growing like 40% every single month. We should be doing $1 million annual come end of year.
And then the triple banger is, of course, you're 23. Tell us about orderediting.com. What does it do?
Yeah, so we've got a multitude of clients that earn between $5 and $12 every time a customer goes to our app.
Wow.
We've got a Canadian jewelry brand that does 150,000 orders a month, which is nuts. And they have 4,000 customers using us every month, every 30 days.
Turning a customer service inquiry into a sales opportunity.
I like it. It's genius.
So I guess the question you get asked the most is, because it seems to me like one of those ideas that in hindsight, it's obvious that this should have been done, but all the great ideas are obvious in hindsight. How on earth did you come up with this? What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Unemployable with our friend Hamish McKay. This episode is, as you saw in the trailer, truly something special. I love interviewing successful people, but when they're young Aussies and Kiwis that create businesses that can really change a category, it is really very special. In this episode, we talk about how Hamish earned some of the biggest names in the industry as clients. He's got a Shopify app, which you're going to hear about, and no doubt you saw in the trailer, but Udi, Mr. Beast, Threadhead, some of these huge brands that are already clients, growing at over 40% per month and about to head to the US. This is an incredible story of how two young guys got together with less than $10,000, started this awesome little business. It's just one of the best, most positive things you're going to listen to all week. So remember, guys, drop a comment, like, subscribe, and enjoy the show. See you on the other side. Bye. What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Unemployable. As you would have seen from the trailer, today is going to be super, super cool, especially you young entrepreneurs out there that are, hardcore, hungry to become successful and do something really cool, really scalable. We have with us in the studio Hamish McKay. McKay. Yeah, Hamish McKay, who is originally from New Zealand, but seeing as he's doing so well, we're going to always say he's from Australia.
Yeah, claim that.
We always claim the good ones. Welcome to the studio. How are you?
I'm really good, really good. Easy flight in this morning and excited for this.
Yeah, I bet you are preferring the weather. It's 1 degree in Melbourne today.
I had the biggest yarn with the person next to me. I was like, I can't wait to land.
Welcome to the studio. We're really wrapped to have you, and we can't wait to get into this one. James, how are you, mate?
Very well, thanks. It really did. It was quite interesting to go through this site prior to this. So anyone with an interest in e-commerce at all, prick your ears, and this pod's going to be a cracker, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. If you sell online, specifically if you sell on Shopify, this is a great story. And I was just saying off camera to Hamish, I love seeing ideas like this on their own, I think is amazing. But the fact that it's by an Australian or Kiwi from this neck of the woods and done to this standard is even more exciting. And then the triple banger is, of course, you're 23. And I think that's really amazing. So awesome. Eric, how are you, mate?
Very good. Always good.
Yeah.
Glad to have some young energy in the room with all you old dudes here.
Straight out of the gate.
Let's do it. Now, I got to do two things. First of all, I know that some of you, although most of you watch us every week, you know who we are. For the first-time watchers, just to give you a little background of the two guys next to me, this is Eric Machado. Eric is most well known for mxstore.com.au, which is a large e-commerce business, does over $100 million a year. He is also a co-founder or seed investor behind several eight-figure brands as well outside of that, all e-commerce as well, and has property businesses. James is in the healthcare space. He acquires small businesses, improves them, flips them, sort of small M&A work, I would say, is probably the best description. And just a business guy all around and a property guy as well. And myself, I've got a super varied background from online education to e-commerce to I had an animation company in LA for 5 years, which I sold when I lived there and done lots of stuff. So also I died in the wool entrepreneur. So just so you know who we are, but it's all about you today, not us. And the second thing I want to do before we jump in is to thank our sponsor, Early Bird AI. You can check these guys out at earlybird.ai. The website is earlybird.ai, and it's an E-A-R-L-I, Bird. They are the experts in helping businesses to increase lead flow and increase efficiencies using AI. So if you've got a business that you want to solve problems that are consistently recurring, you want to increase your lead flow, lower your costs of running your business, get a free audit from these guys. They're based right here on the Gold Coast. They are booming. They're doing extremely well. One quick example, I was there last week with you, Eric, and they're doing some work at the moment for a medical center of all places. Their number one challenge was their phones ringing all the time. And so while there's people in the medical clinic wanting to get seen, wanting to get served, the phones are ringing, keep the staff, so they're implementing an AI for them. It answers their phones, books appointments, changes appointments, and can even do counseling with people when they call in. So that's just one very simple application, but they do it right across from collecting your invoices, generating leads, converting more sales, and so on. So go and check those guys out. They're awesome. All of that being said, this is about you, mate. So let's bring the audience into the picture on your business, which is orderediting.com. So if you're listening or you can't see the website, we're going to throw it up here on YouTube for those of you watching on YouTube so you can see it, orderediting.com. Hamish is the founder. Are you the sole founder?
Co-founder
of the business. Very lucky to have him here in the studio. So Hamish, tell us about orderediting.com. What does it do?
Yeah, so we are a Shopify app that lets customers edit their order after purchase, which might sound like a bit of a why would you? But when you're doing an $100 million GMV business, you will receive 3,000, 4,000 emails every single month from customers saying, I made a mistake in my address at checkout, or I want to cancel my order, or I bought the wrong products, can I change my size? And our app will let the customer do that themselves instead of contacting customer service. And the really exciting part within that is that this is an interaction with your storefront. Your service agents can't upsell product recommendations when I ask to change my address, but we can. While you're changing the address, I can say, do you want to add that white t-shirt and save $8? It's 20% off for you. And customers change their address, but they add things to their cart at the same time.
That's very, very cool. Because in your business, I mean, this would happen. You guys do like 1,000 orders a day or something, right? And
Yeah.
more than 1,000 orders a day. So
We've got a full customer service team just replying to emails,
And it happens all the time where people go like, hey, I put the wrong address in, or I meant to order the black one instead of the white one.
Or I ordered large, but I just realized I'm a medium, all these types of things.
It's about anywhere between 1% or 2% of customers make a mistake at checkout.
But the advantage here is they're coming in to fix an order, yet it's a bait and switch, and they can upsell straight out of the gate. So post-purchase upsells, I mean, they're quite commonplace for e-com, but not turning a customer service inquiry into a sales opportunity.
Exactly. And no one has ever done post-purchase upsells over email either, just because it hasn't been possible.
So that's what I was going to ask you. So how do people, if I've got an e-commerce business, how would I experience your software?
Yeah, so your customer would check out. Mm-hmm. They land on Shopify's thank you page, and the app blocks just load out. Like update your address, is Google Maps API running? If they close that page, the email that gets the order confirmation email, we live in there. You only have 30 minutes to change your order. Please double check your address and order details. And then what like 90% of our Australian brands are doing, and we're trying to get the US to launch into it as well, is 60 seconds after you buy, I will email you, or the store will email you and say, there's space in your package. Would you like to add another item and save on shipping? X is 20% off, or Y is 10% off. And that is the gold where people are making like $10,000 a month through the app, along with never receiving a support ticket again.
And this is through Shopify only.
Shopify only, I'm so sorry.
Because Shopify has a marketplace of apps, right?
Yeah.
So you can, if you're a Shopify seller, you can go to the marketplace of clever ideas to improve the Shopify experience, and you're one of those vendors, right?
Yeah. So we're ranking number 1 for order editing at the moment.
I'm sure that's a small subcategory. Yeah. Well done, we'll take it. Do you, just out of interest, do you rev share with Shopify for that or not?
No. Or until you cross $1 million of annual earnings, and then you start paying commission.
Okay.
But right up until your first million and first million recurring, you take everything home.
Yeah, so they're incentivizing developers to develop layer 2s on top of the Shopify platform, and you're one of those developers.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge value driver for their ecosystem.
So I just want to slow down what you just said before, just for us oldies, as Eric refers to them. So I'm on a Shopify powered site. I might not know that it's Shopify powered site, but I complete my transaction, and then it goes to a page that says,
Thank you.
But this is your page?
Shopify has a native thank you page that everyone will experience.
Yep.
And you turn on our app component, you embed it in that page,
okay.
and it'll say, edit your order. You have 30 minutes to make changes, and then it will give a few toggles like shipping address, add another product, upgrade, get your delivery faster, things like that.
Lives on the thank you page is the first time I would experience your technology.
Yeah.
And do you do upsells at that page as well?
We do.
Okay, so that's cool. So you experience on the thank you page, and then you get this communications afterwards.
Yeah.
So I guess the question you get asked the most is, how on earth did you come up with this? Because it seems to me like one of those ideas that in hindsight, it's obvious that this should have been done, but all the great ideas are obvious in hindsight. How did you come up with it?
That's a really hard question to answer. I think we were in a fortunate position in a few different ways. One is that when I built the product, we were working for a massive fashion retailer doing about $40 million a year US, all through Shopify. So we had high volume, which is our ICP. That's where you need to build a product like this.
What's an ICP?
Like our ideal customer.
Profile.
So at that kind of order volume, this is a necessity. Like this app, you just need, because otherwise you're burning industrial waste, pretty much is what we like to call it, of all that manual hours. We were also fortunate that we ran a pre-order model, and we did very high volume viral drops for the world's biggest YouTubers. So you can imagine we'd put up a storefront for Mr. Beast, he'd post about it on Twitter and YouTube, and 1.5 million kids would be on our site within the first hour. And so when you have all of these people rushing in, feeling like they're buying a sellout product, your propensity to make a mistake at checkout just goes through the roof. And so I would wake up as a customer experience manager. I was managing our help desk at the time and the 10 support agents in our team. We'd wake up on Saturday morning on drop day, and there would be 1,000 emails like to come and start your day with that were all saying, can I change my address? Or can I cancel my order? My son plays with my credit card. That was a really common one. So we just had this massive necessity to build it. And I think other big GMV brands do, but since their tickets are probably more sporadically spread, it's like 50 a day versus 1,000 that morning. I guess they just didn't feel the necessity that we did. And I pretty much just put up my hand and said, like, we self-service our returns. Why aren't we self-servicing order edits? And we just went away and built it somewhat naively, I think, at the time.
And when you mention GMV brands, just so all the listeners understand, what's a GMV brand?
So their gross merchandise value, their annual recurring revenue, effectively, how much money's coming through.
Yep. So when you say high GMV, you mean high gross merchant value. So merchandise value. Okay, so basically you were in a job where you saw a screaming problem, and unlike everybody else that worked at that job, there was a little piece of an entrepreneur in you that went, maybe I'll actually code something here.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not the technical co-founder, but yeah, I mean, I went through this it was a really interesting time for me. Like I was 20 or just turned 21, and this was an internship that I kind of got thrown into. I moved to Australia and did this internship for 3 months, and I got offered the job as like shadow the CEO, and we'll find a place for you. And I turned up and there was absolutely no place for me. Like it was like, come and just whatever, pretty much, because he was a friend of a friend. But like I was a really, really hungry kid at the time, with massively ambitious goals for the next 5 years. And I remember being really frustrated. There was nothing for me to do. And I started doing customer service tickets there. And when I was doing that work, I noticed that we had no support manager really. Like the whole department was just absent. And there were 10,000 emails sitting in the help desk that had never been answered. Some were 3 months old. And so I took that. This was like 4 weeks into joining this company. And I pitched myself. I said, let me be the support manager. I'll hire a team of uni students. I'll put out job ads. I'll bring on a bunch of contractors. We'll clear out all this crap. We'll clear our reputation. And it took a couple times pitching, a few different dinners, a few different like really persisting. And then they gave me the opportunity and I just ran with it. Like you can imagine, it was just my first job opportunity. I'm still a uni student. I haven't done my last year of uni. And suddenly I can call myself a customer experience manager and I'm managing 10 employees and I've interviewed and I've recruited and I've solved this massive problem and that's on my CV. Like it was the most exciting thing at the time. And I think that like self-belief and bullishness on myself meant that when you see a problem like that, you just think, oh yeah, I can solve that. And I just remember saying one day, like, we have this problem. I think we could build a self-service portal. And immediately I just got teed up with another friend of a friend who's a brilliant Shopify app developer. And we just started instant messaging and just building this product together.
Can I just a key question there? It said, we had a problem. We developed it. I'm assuming that's not with the Shopify store owner. It was you and a...
That's right.
Yeah, when you said we're solving it, it's not we's in the entity, it's we's in me and the mate.
Yeah. So me and my co-founder, Kara, owned the IP and put that into all the contracts and all the rest.
And Kiara, is that a female?
Guy.
A guy.
Kiara. Yeah.
Got a guy.
Russian background.
Where's he based?
He's in Toronto.
Oh, what a good place.
So he's 27 and great place. We still haven't met in person. And
So I'm originally.
oh, there you go.
A lot of smart guys come out of that place.
Yeah.
Present company excluded. So you and this other guy from Toronto on the other side of the world who's 27, you just team up and you start coding this app between you, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where did you find him?
He was an internet kid. And one of the guys that we worked with on a contractual basis, one of our designers, knew him just from this logo business that Kara used to run. He's a phenomenal, like, I think this is his fourth venture. He's built a Shopify app that churns out like ludicrous amounts of revenue, and it's just very passive income. He's a real lifestyle business builder. And he just loves building projects. So I think when he heard the idea, he just hooked onto it. And we fell in love pretty much.
I love how he's like, he's an internet kid.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Lifestyle.
What does that mean?
I thought we were going to have to back it up and ask you, just for Eric, what the internet is.
Internet.
The interwebs. So okay, so let's get to the punchline for a minute. Where are you guys at now in terms of revenue with orderediting.com?
Yeah. So we're now 6 months full time, and we're doing $27,000 a month. So about just under $500,000 annual run rate Australian.
And 6 months in.
Yeah. So we're a year old, but for the second half of last year as a side hustle, January 1st, quit my job.
Yeah.
And have been running ever since. And we went from, I think, $2.5K monthly recurring US to now 27.
US.
Yeah.
So there's a 6 month build time in there. What's sort of the out of pocket expenses, so to speak, for you and Kara to build this?
Yeah. We probably spent ludicrous out. Like, we built this 2 years ago when we were at that company, dog fooded the product for a year. And I think I paid Kara about $5,000 for the project, which was a really minimal MVP. And then come end of year when we said, let's commercialize this, you just saved our ecom brand $80,000 in staff costs. We then spent 6 months of like long, hard hours. But the actual like infrastructure of the app is just your server costs, which are pretty minimal. But the time invested is where the real expense is. But we were lucky that I was working full time and could support myself with my salary. And Kara has a successful business generating free cash in the background. So he has still never paid himself a salary. I just paid my first salary last month.
And for listeners to the pod, this is one of the greatest things that any level of passive income gives you, which is the ability to create projects and earn equity without needing cash flow. And businesses thrive when they're not starved of cash. And you guys are billionaires with minutes, right? When you're in your 20s. And so you use the capital that you had, which is time capital, to convert into now real cash capital. And that is the process of trading when you're young.
Yeah. And it meant that we could own all of our equity as well. I'm reading this book at the moment called How Founders Work. And like, I think 70% of the people in the book that get interviewed complain about VC funding at some stage, which like there are lessons to come from it. You know, sometimes it's a good fit, sometimes it's not. But they all say if you can do it without taking funding, like please do. Yeah, please do. And it meant that like while I didn't quit my job sooner, I probably could have, but we were just still trying to find product market fit. I could run for 6 months and not draw a salary, and there's just no need to take outside capital. And we own the whole thing. And now we generate, tens of thousands of dollars of free cash. So happy days.
I think you'll need funding in the future at some point for expansion.
Yeah, I'm about to go to the US. I don't think we'll ever need capital, but we are interested in raising money from certain influencers in market to like pretty much just accelerate through the network. Our head of UK calls it a clout raise, where I know that there are some brand founders that could introduce us into a community or into their 100 brand network. And we know that we've got a viral product and awareness is how we win work. As soon as you hear about it and you fit within that profile, you're signing up.
Yeah, it's kind of like, a very well-known example of that kind of investor is Alex Hormozi, right? Like, so he invests in things where he can add significant value to the project so that he almost guarantees a massive growth in his investment. He just did that with school, like with Sam Ovens, another
Another Kiwi.
Kiwi, yeah. They're doing something, putting something in the water over there in New Zealand. Yeah. Very innovative people.
Yeah, I remember I was just on the flight over. I was writing in our strategy book, and I was thinking about valuations and how much we would potentially raise from that type of person. And you can do this really interesting exercise when you're looking for an investor like Alex Hormozi, where you go, okay, if I give you 0.5% of the company at this valuation, if you bring me $300,000 of annual recurring work, has your investment paid off in full? Like, how much is that equity worth at the end of the day when we have a liquidity event? And how much revenue did you bring in? And what's the valuation added from that revenue? So I hope that when we start thinking about who these potential people are and trying to tease the market when I'm doing this roadshow, you can actually think about, okay, we don't need capital, we need influence. And is there actually a return on investment and giving them that influence beyond just, resource into the business?
What's the book called?
The strategy book. That's my book.
No, but did you say you were reading a book?
Oh yeah, how founders work.
And that's what went through this kind of.
No, that was separate.
Okay.
So this is the book I'm reading, but this is just some thinking that I'm doing at the moment.
Oh, it's just some thinking. I thought you read that in a book.
Nah.
Okay, that's cool. No, look, I mean, if you haven't seen the site yet and you're curious, have a look. What blew me away was your client list. Like Mr. Beast is a client.
Yeah,
dude.
And that birthed out of the merch company we work for, obviously.
Right. So you had a relationship with some people in the Mr. Beast organization already?
Well, we were selling his merchandise.
Were you dealing with him directly out of interest?
No, not
just one of his people.
But some people on the team were on calls with him and whatnot, although infrequently.
Yeah. So you had relationships with people there.
Yeah.
And you got Uni, which is a huge brand, and
even Represent.
Yeah.
That's grown massively.
Massive, yeah. 100 million pounds.
Wow.
We've just gone through just the most viral growth period. Like, that's nothing compared to who's onboarding right now.
Is that right?
Yeah, like that's nothing.
Can you drop some names?
I probably shouldn't. But like next week, I meet with 2 brands that do over $250 million a year on Shopify. Each independently.
Are they Aussie brands instead of
No, American.
American, yeah. I was going to say that because in Aussie, there's not too many in that stratosphere.
Yeah, so it's like I think 70% of our client book is Australian.
That's going to change.
Have you approached Culture Kings at all?
Yeah, we spoke with Simon actually when it first launched, and then it had problems with the different tech that was in their stack. Okay. And mind you, we were a month old.
Yeah, of course.
And then I've tapped it with them recently because we're partnered with their warehouse management software. But yet to do a warehouse tour and sell the product.
So let's back this up a little bit. I want to see, so we understand how you built it, right? So you obviously knew the problem. Would you say you're sort of like, are you a technical guy as well, or is it mainly the other guys?
I can't write code.
Okay. But you understand.
Yeah, I've got like I mean, it's kind of hard to say that now. I think 2 years ago, I could not say that I knew anything about technology. But I liken it to like some of the traits that I think a lot of founders have, which is just a grueling amount of self-belief that you can kind of do whatever you want.
You're great on camera and you're personable, you're building the business.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, I was always that kid who would put my hand up for things, or like lead out a group project. And one of the things I was actually talking about last night with a friend, who was quite concerned about the hours that I'm working at the moment. And she was just like, I can't understand like how you can sit in front of your laptop and work on this for that long. And I was like, well, 1, I love it. And 2, like I think I really have learned like how to work hard. And it amazes me as well that I can like, I don't know, the amount of lock-in that you have and just like focus when it's your baby. And when you've got a bit of background of learning how hard you can work behind you is amazing. And no wonder we're getting so much done at the moment.
What I'm curious about is you build this tech and you build a beautiful website. This looks great. It's very Shopify looking, which is cool. I'm sure it's not by accident. The colors.
It's built on Shopify.
I'm sure. Surprise, surprise. So you've got the tech, but you're two 23 and 27-year-olds, right? And what's the first thing you did to generate business? Like, how did you get your first customers? Was it through your relationships? You just started reaching out to people you already knew? And then I want to talk about how you're growing virally. What sort of things are you doing to grow the business?
Yeah, so we actually had personally, I had very little network in the e-com community. While I worked for an e-com business, it was almost more a content creator economy business than e-commerce. I had been posting on LinkedIn for a couple of years, and I'd had some like lift off there with a couple of viral posts and just general storytelling. There was a minor story behind me of this uni student who got a cool internship working with the biggest creators in the world, and then is in love with startups and things like that. And when we did our launch post in June, there was just so much confidence that recognition would get picked up on this product, because we knew that a launch post on LinkedIn does really well. You know, you're starting a business, you're young, who wouldn't want to root for these kids? And I also knew that in that launch post, if I talk about what the product does, people will recognize that it's a valuable solution. Like, we're not just launching something that would be a real uphill battle to find product market fit with. And so we got a lot of like lead gen off that as general interest. And we had those customer conversations where you demoed them and it probably wasn't ready yet, but they gave you feedback that then let you sign them up 3 months later. It took us a really long time to win our first paying customer. We were generating no revenue for 5 months. I think the Oodie were our first paying customer, and they came on in October, I believe, just before Black Friday, and we started in May. And they came on after I posted on LinkedIn. And to date, that has been the biggest revenue driver for our business. I think 60% of our work comes from LinkedIn. From I do a post, someone books a time in my diary, or they send me a message, or whatever it is. We're growing through organic social channels.
And I mean, how many people, most people just signing up off the website though, right? They're not doing a call with you every time.
It depends on the size of the brand.
Okay.
Anyone who's on like Shopify Plus, which is usually if you're doing more than 10,000 orders a month, they meet with me. They meet with me because they have some complexity in how it will work. We need to onboard them.
So where are you at now from in the game? You got Oodie on board. How many client customers are you looking to take, paying customers now?
We've got 550 users, but there are a bunch of people on a free plan where they pay us commission.
Yep.
I think.
Well, it's still a paid customer effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, 550 is probably the simple answer. I can't remember the specific on subscriptions.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that because I looked at your pricing page and it was kind of cool. Can you just click on that for us, Richard? The pricing page, you say you got the basic Shopify plan, which is $0 a month subscription, but 6% of upsell revenue. And then you got the next one, which is $79 a month and no percent of the upsell revenue. And then you got the Shopify Plus, which are the big gorillas who are like Eric sort of thing, the big stores, and they're paying $400 a month and nothing of the revenue. What's the spread there, or what's the usual customer journey? Do they usually come in on the free plan, see how it goes, see if it really does upsell, and then do they just migrate, or how does it? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, so we actually block off those pricing tiers based on your monthly revenue in effect. So only quite small stores can go on our free plan, and that's great for us because we get users, we get bugs getting pointed out, we get product development and customer feedback and reviews on the App Store. The advanced plan is for your kind of mid to small market or people that don't want to pay a commission on upsell revenue. And that's really great because they don't have a massive problem to solve, but they are very focused on how can I generate more post-purchase upsell revenue. Hence why there's quite a jump from $79 to $399. And then people on Plus pay that premium because we know that you will receive more than 400 order editing tickets a month. And if we're billing roughly like 60 cents per edit, you're profitable. And the really cool metric that we're starting to see now, because we're improving our analytics, is we're now tracking how much revenue you make every time an edit happens, so that how often do you upsell an address change. And we've got like a multitude of clients in Australia that earn between $5 and $12 every time a customer goes to our app,
Wow.
which is insane.
So this makes your SaaS very sticky.
Very.
Yeah.
Very.
SaaS meaning, for the listeners who are not familiar, software as a service, which is what this is, right?
Yeah.
So you've got very low churn, I'm imagining.
Yeah, we've got, I think, 1% revenue churn.
Wow.
That's low.
That is low.
Well, then also, have you got a metric there you've got for upsell, but also then from that's the a great metric, but also the decrease in customer service tickets.
Yeah, entirely kind of based off how many tickets are getting serviced. But like, for example, we've got a Canadian jewelry brand that does 150,000 orders a month, which is nuts. And they have 4,000 customers using us every month, every 30 days. And that's all tickets that would have happened otherwise. The Oodie are the same. They do about 4,000 edits a month. Every 30 days, 4,000 customers use our app.
But like, it would be interesting. I don't know if you guys have done a case study like this, but if you can actually see how much cost that they've decreased their customer support by paying $400 a month. You're paying $4,800 a year. Like, surely when they're doing that amount of orders, you're reducing staff numbers by a dramatic amount.
And we do, we have the metric up on our dashboard. Like, we'll say your cost per ticket is $3 as an industry average, and you'll multiply that by how many customers are going into the app. So the Oodies would say $12,000 of support cost saved a month.
Yeah.
But really, I think the stickiness comes from like the headline in our pitch deck is never receive a support ticket again.
Yeah.
And that's like the impact when I catch up with the brand, literally 7 days after, I go, how's the help desk looking? And this US client that I'm thinking of said, we used to receive 50 emails a day relating to address changes and cancellations. We now receive 2.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And how could you leave that? How could you go back to the manual labor?
But even like, if you're a customer buying and you have that option, right, and you just bought off 3 other sites and they don't have that option to edit, like just the repeat purchase that you're going to be getting based on, the ease of using the site, that you can just go in there rather, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big online shopper myself, but it would be a pain in the ass to put in an order and then send an email to a support desk and then wait for a reply. And you're hoping it's going to be some Aussie, someone from overseas. Like, that's the reality, right?
Yeah, it's anxiety inducing.
Yeah, like the reason why I don't buy online is because if it doesn't fit, right? I don't want the dramas of having to go to Ozpost, package it up again, send I'm like, no, I'll just go to the shopping center, try it on, fits, bang, as an example, right? But I think it'll reflect so much on the actual business going, oh, their service is amazing. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, you're servicing yourself
and getting pitched.
And getting pitched.
Oh, well, that's like that's a sign of a great business. Like when the customer's actually enjoying that.
Yeah. So why wouldn't someone use it? Like, to me, I look at this and I'm like,
it's a no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer. So how can someone in their right mind go no to $79 a month for this? Like,
Yeah, I think we definitely experienced, I mean, it took us that long to generate any revenue. And even now we still experience an uphill battle. I mean, I laugh, I look at our organic social impressions and I go like, wow, 500,000 people have seen our content in the last 90 days. But like, how many customers did we bring on? We brought on a lot, but I would have thought, like, if you see this, you'd come. But there's not a lot of awareness of the problem, and there's still a lot of disbelief that it works. So some of that naivety when we built the product was we had really simple shipping softwares and warehouse setups that allowed us to build the product very easily. Come to a brand like the Oodie or Represent Clo or Opoly, and suddenly they have all of these downstream layers of complexity to how an order gets shipped to the customer. And for them, their belief is this hasn't been happening for the last 20 years because it is impossible. I'm not sure. I'm sure you are familiar with NetSuite, which is like an enterprise resource planner. I had a client get introduced to me the other day, and I replied and said, "Hey, do you want to book a time in my diary? Here it is. Here's what we do." And he goes, "I just spoke with my account lead at NetSuite, and he said order edits aren't possible." And I'm just like, we know it is the Udi use NetSuite. But it's just this awareness play of how we've solved that integration piece, which I won't dive into because I class that our IP.
Yeah,
but
the time market is, I mean, you're so young. I mean, the company is so young.
That's probably one of the issues, right?
Time
It
in
is,
market's
yeah.
going to be your friend.
But also, you just pulled on a point there about IP. I mean, how protected can you create this?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's software. And at the end of the day, we're on Shopify and we're using Shopify APIs. So it's not like defense is inherently challenging. But, you know, we build mode as best we can through brand. Like we're building a pretty significant audience on LinkedIn now. And I think, you know, you talk about Hermosi, how hard would it be to compete with him? That's definitely like the ambition for where this goes, to be so big that you just can't be ignored. And then there's other layers to it in the fact that we have, you know, 2.5 years now of head start because we've been doing this for that long. And we've got the customer base, and holy dooly, it's growing like 40% every single month.
Is it really?
Yeah. No, we're really viral at the moment.
So 27,000 in revenue is not going to be there for long, Jesus.
No,
It's
we're
a compound rate.
We should be doing $1 million annual come end of year. That's the target that I've set on myself.
Yeah.
I think she'll do it.
Now, take us a day in the life of Hamish. You say that you work a lot. You're putting in a lot of hours. What does a day or what does a week look like in a startup? And how long are you working, and what type of work are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, I am the distribution arm of this company. Like I'm not, like my co-founder is the CTO. His week is entirely coding and building product. We're a team of 4, so there's no internal meetings and all the rest.
We call it bullshit.
Yeah, there's no bullshit. So my calendar is an open book, and on a perfect week, there is 30 hours of sales meetings on there. And some weeks it has looked like that, where literally I wake up at 7 a.m. and I meet with a brand in the US until 7:30. I go and have breakfast for 30 minutes. I do my 8 a.m. to 8:30. I try and get to the office at 9. I do my 9 a.m. to 9:30. And I'm just on back-to-back meetings with 30-minute breaks right through until about 11:30 p.m. at midnight when I go home. That was what I did on Monday. Some days, obviously, it's more quiet, and that is when you're able to do all of the other things that fit inside what your work looks like, the content that we write, the partnerships that we're trying to execute on, the relationships that we have with our customers. Where can we try and pick up referrals or account manage or send through and start case studies and things like that. But really, when I think about what I do day to day, it's from 7 a.m. to close to midnight. It's how can I raise awareness about this product and get more people booking time in my diary, and how can I get people onboarded and live and set up so that we get those trial periods and subscriptions starting running.
What was the biggest unlock is there any one or two things that you've done that you go, holy shit, that was like, for example, forming a joint venture with Dave Fogarty at Udi, or is it like with the communities that you access that have your audience, or what were some of the biggest unlocks from a growth point of view?
Yeah, I think our first paying customer was a real turning point, especially because of how that came about. Up until then, we've been very focused on reducing customer service tickets. And I remember we posted that we do post-purchase upsell emails, and immediately the audio were in my calendar. And a week later, they were live. Like that update to the product, that update in positioning and how we sold it and how we marketed it online was a huge turning point, because it actually started revenue for this company, and we picked up a lot of customers after there. We then had a massive turning point again when I quit my job and went full-time on this, and actually was able to layer in the focus that is necessary to grow that fast. And I think the biggest thing behind our current virality and tailwind was we picked up 6 or 7 of the biggest brands within a specific community, Jay Wright's e-commerce equation community.
Great organization.
You know, we won like 70% of his biggest clients. And they had a meeting where they talked about the wins of the week, and all of them said order editing in this like alliance that we didn't encourage or anything, but they all just said like order editing was my win of the week. And Jay was like, oh, you know, who are these guys? And 2 weeks later, we were promoting to the entire community on call. And I remember there were 200 people. I didn't even know there were 200 people on that call where I did a group demo. I didn't even actually show the product. I just spoke about it for about 3 minutes. Immediately after, there were 50 new meetings in my diary. like
50?
50. It was like you walked into a room of 200 people, you pitched them on their business, and a quarter of them wanted to invest or buy your product. Like, it just was unheard of. And then from there, the growth that you get from that, we published online, we built in public, and it's just kept going and going.
You need to be speaking at these e-com conferences.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be getting on
In
stage.
the US.
Yeah.
That's where the game is, you know,
Yeah.
for this kind of thing.
Imagine the size of those in Vegas. Yeah.
No, you're more popular than James at the Pav on a Friday night. He was fucking there. Dude, like you can probably sense that we're excited for you. Like we really are cheering for any young Australian having a go, but I really think you have a chance here of doing. I know you know this, but just know that you're going to cop shit from some corners of the world, being a young, ambitious entrepreneur, but there's communities that are going to cheer you on, and we're in that community. So we're really, really stoked.
Appreciate it.
So I just want to point one thing out for the audience in case you missed it, which was the first thing Hamish just said, which when I said what were the big unlocks, the first thing he said was I reframed how I explained the offer.
Yeah.
And Alex Hormozi writes a great book called $100 Million Offers. But
Yeah, great.
But just by asking your customers, like we had a presentation a few days ago with Early Bird. So Early Bird AI is actually a portfolio company for Eric and I. We funded that business to get them going. Young guys like you that work all day and all night, hungry and so on. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the pod. I just want to take a quick moment to share a quick story with you about something going on in one of my businesses right now. We are using artificial intelligence to send a voice clone of myself directly into our customers' voicemail inboxes the moment after they purchase our product. Well, not the moment, a few minutes after. So with our toilets business, Dry Flush, people put in their name, their email, their phone number when they order the toilets. 5 minutes later, their phone rings once and it goes straight to their voicemail. And we're using an AI that clones my voice and says, "Hey, Terry," if that's their name, grabbing the name from the order form using my voice. It drops a customized voicemail to say, "Hey, Terry, what's going on? Adam here from Dry Flush. Just want to say thank you so much for ordering one of our toilets. Sorry I missed you. I just wanted to let you know that we appreciate your business. If there's anything you need, just send us an email at hello@dryflush.com.au." And that goes out to every customer every time a few minutes after the purchase. This is what the team at earlybird.ai are building for us right now, as along with some other very, very cool solutions that are going to increase customer experience, increase the number of 5-star reviews we get, and automate the amazing experience that we are aiming to provide when you buy from our e-commerce store. So if you want to learn about that and your business is doing over $500,000 a year, you qualify for a free audit with the team at earlybird.ai. That's EARLI, earlybird.ai. And they will do an audit of your business and show you how they can put artificial intelligence like that into your business, whether it's voice cloning, video, face cloning, all kinds of amazing technologies that are available right now. So go over there, get your free audit, and enjoy the rest of the podcast. They gave us all this data on who had come from this podcast, from us doing the shout outs. When they go to their website, there's all this data they collect when they set a meeting. And you find out, like one of the questions was, what are you interested in AI doing for your business? And it was broken down, and you could see straight away by just asking the question, what were the hot buttons for people? And just by that one, it was the same product, but you changed your offer slightly. It's so important to get that correct, and just don't assume that you know. Ask the question. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really hard. I remember I hated that experience because I was so, like, I solved this problem for myself, and I was so attached and in love with the solving the customer service tickets. That's been what I experienced, and I still am. That's what I love about the product. And it was really hard to draw focus away from that onto something that I considered a feature. But it just wasn't a feature that I understood the power of, because I'd never been the marketing manager or the e-commerce manager that's looking to grow top line. And we saw, as soon as we did it, I was like, "Hamish, you were a numpty for not shouting about that sooner." That's where the power is, and run with that.
Because when you think about it with entrepreneurs, I mean, as an entrepreneur, if somebody said to me, "Would you rather get less support tickets or make more sales and revenue?" Most people go, "I'd love to have less support tickets, but I'd really love more cash."
Yeah.
That's just the entrepreneurial mind.
Yeah.
And it just shows you when you're so close to your product or service sometimes. And that's where having a mentor or using your clients for feedback. And I also just want to highlight the fact that this is one of those things that people stumble across solutions to things in everyday life, just problems that exist, but they don't have their eyes open and they don't go, how can I dedicate? The real reason this is thriving is because you found a real problem.
Yeah.
And you've solved it.
Yeah.
You know? That's it. And so many people start trying to pump themselves up on an average, unpainful problem. There's already 15 people doing something similar and they're slightly different. Whereas you've gone and found a real problem that nobody else was solving and actually solved it well. And you can't beat that, you know?
Yeah. And I think that point around like the financial security you were talking about, I did a post about this recently, is why so much of that doesn't happen. Like I can think of the entirety of like my friend group back home or whatever it is. If they came across a problem, it probably would be too hard to solve because there's no money in the bank account to be able to quit their job and chase after it, you know, unless they went out and took funding. But even then you kind of think that's too hard or it's out of your reach. I remember the biggest blessing that I think I ever did to myself was storing 6 months of life expenses in my bank accounts that if anything did happen, I could go after it, you know, risk-free. And one of the things that I'm thinking about a lot lately, I remember when I was quitting my job, I had this conversation with my old boss and I was like, you know, you're passing up a real opportunity here because I was at a great organization. And I go, and I agree. But like, we can't lie to each other. If this capitulates in 8 months' time, I'm going to be able to get another great opportunity. Like, it's not the end of the world, you know. Work will always be there. But while you're young and you don't have kids and a mortgage and you can book a flight to the US in 2 weeks and start a business and do all of these crazy things, that is not forever. I think it gets increasingly harder and harder, or you get more and more constrained to do these entrepreneurial ventures. Mind you have less experience is a kind of tipping point. But shit, have a crack.
Where does the ambition, you mentioned earlier, you know, the hunger and the ambition, where does that come from in a 23-year-old?
Yeah. I remember when I was 18, and this is genuinely where it started. I remember when I was 18, I read an article about financially independent retire early, or FIRE. There's like this online community around it. And the article told me as this 18-year-old kid that if you save $2,500 a month, you will have about $2 million invested in 25 years and you could pay yourself 80 grand a year and never work a day again in your life. Financially independent, retire early. Like you could withdraw that from that fund and you'd never lose capital. I remember reading that and thinking like, that's awesome. Retiring at 45 or whatever would be incredible. I want to try and do it at 25. And like that was a really wildly ambitious goal with no foundation behind it. I had done nothing, but I'd watched and I'd seen other young people do really impressive things online. And I started getting interested in investing, and then progressively it turned into this just like goal that lived in my head where I felt like I had to hit that while I was 25 and I felt like I could. I had an older brother that hit that when he was 21. I knew his friends that had hit that when they were 23 or 24, so it felt possible because I knew that they were regular human beings, which I think a lot of people struggle with when they read books or watch podcasts or watch YouTube videos, is they think that person is, you know, few and far between, but like we were all in the same shoes. Mind you, there's varying degrees of things, but like you can learn anything.
A $2 million net worth, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So they hit it at that age.
Yeah.
You have some good friends and brothers.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
Just
Very
curious.
lucky.
Just curious. You get this drive and ambition. You want to retire early. So, what motivated you to go to uni, and what were you doing at uni?
Yeah, I was. I studied business. I actually went to uni thinking I was going to be a professional rower, which is kind of funny. And then I just fell in love with like the education side of things. One of the drivers was that I, for whatever reason, have always been kind of nerdy about like fulfillment and what you want to do with your life. I think I always kind of found the length of your lifetime really frightening in a lot of ways. And I wanted to make sure I figured out what I wanted to do and was able to do that and not be constrained. And I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to teach. I wanted to lecture at universities. because I really enjoyed coaching rowing students and coaching people who were doing hockey and tutoring. I really just like falling in love with that as a craft. But I also knew that if I taught, like I wouldn't have a nice home, and I probably wouldn't be able to go to a holiday 3 times a year, or like whatever you want to enjoy yourself. And that's where this goal came from, was, well, I want to retire early, but I don't want to stop working. I just want to stand in the shoes of someone who can make a decision on what they do with their life and have it not at all be financially motivated. I just think that would be like the most amazing feeling in the world, to look at your bank account and be like, okay, whatever I do next, I don't care what the paycheck is. It's irrelevant.
Right. Great goal.
Yeah.
You've got agency over your own life, and you can't be bought, which is great.
We get a lot of people asking, like we did a coaching call last week, and in the messages was like, well, how do you find business partners and how do you do deals?
Yeah.
Now you found this, what they call a internet kid. You don't know this guy though, right?
Well, I know now.
No.
But at the
At
time.
the time you don't know him. You have this idea,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people, when they have an idea, they hold their cards very close to their chest, and they don't want to tell no one about their idea because they think everybody's going to steal their idea. So how did you do the deal, right? Like, you've got this idea. It's not the tech guy's idea. It's your idea, right? The most dangerous person you can tell this to is an internet kid tech guy, right? That you don't know. So how did you build that relationship?
Yeah.
And how did you actually do that deal? Because I think this is like the part
questions.
where a lot of people overlook, right? They're like, oh yeah, I just did a deal and then we moved on. Like, what does that deal look like? How did it happen? What were the discussions like? Did you make him sign an NDA? Did you know what an NDA was? You know, all these.
Or were you just lucky that you found a good guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. One piece of advice before I dive into the specifics would be, don't do it alone. Frankly, like it is grueling work, and the value that you get out of a co-founder is everything.
Right.
Like genuinely everything. I could not be doing this without Kara. Whether you're a technical co-founder or a more business development co-founder, like pair yourself up with someone, because it will be hard. And you shouldn't underestimate the value of someone else who's like you, another entrepreneur. You know, you 10x yourself. We were in this interesting position when it started where we both didn't think about it as a commercial opportunity. It was just this problem to solve internally. And we were just caught in this whirlwind of solving our own issues that neither I nor him thought about the external market opportunity. So there was no NDA. There was an agreement that we owned the code together, and that we could use it for future projects, but whether or not that was exclusive, like to us doing it together, I honestly couldn't tell you.
And that agreement, was it a handshake agreement?
No, it was
Did you hire a solicitor to do up a proper document?
Yeah, no, it was just effectively lines of text and signatures on the invoice for the contractual work.
Okay.
Probably written by ChatGPT, knowing you internet kids.
Knowing Kara probably was. and then when we decided, I remember like I had just left that job to go work for another startup, and I messaged him and I said, hey, can we chat next week about the order editing tool? Because it was just sitting there. And he said, yeah, and I think we had a 5-minute call where I said, do you want to do this together? And he was like, yeah, how do we structure? And I said 50-50, let's like whip it up. And eventually we got to the point of actually signing a document where it said these are the shareholders and all the rest.
Yeah. So you actually set up a company, registered a company, shareholder.
So funny thing about that is, and I don't know of a lot of people, like a lot of those 19-year-olds that might be listening to this that you think about, a lot of people do that first, and all of the knowledge that I read in books or articles and what we did ourselves was like, we didn't bother with any of that crap until we earned our dollars. I think we incorporated in December. Last year, but we were working on that for a far longer time. We did have almost like an MOU, but it was legally binding, I believe, that we were working on this together.
Memorandum of Understanding
that we were working on this together, but we didn't actually incorporate the company until December. And yeah, Kara's a great guy, and so am I. Which I think, like another point of advice. Yeah, it does. I mean, another point of advice, I say, find a co-founder. And this is completely ripped off all the things that I read, but and like that mentors have told me, but everyone should be saying this to one another. When you're thinking about your co-founder, find someone who's intelligent, who has high energy, and most important of it all, has integrity. Mm-hmm. And that's the recipe that when I heard that for the first time, it was only a few months ago, I looked at Karen and I was like, that is you summed up to a T.
I love how you have so much respect for each other. I hope he speaks about you the same way. I'm sure he does.
He does.
You just mentioned mentors. Unpack that for us.
Yeah. A really important period of my journey has been mentors. I picked up my first mentorship when I started at the second startup I worked at. And I actually went through this really interesting job interview process where, and I think everyone should think about this in their first jobs. I was coming out of a startup and I thought about what I really wanted from work. I was in love with startups. That was my first requirement. But I also looked at my background and I said, you've just spent 12 months being a manager and you're literally a child with a degree. Like, do you really want that from your next opportunity?
You're self-aware, that's for sure.
And so in the job interviews, I said, I'm only applying to work at startups because that's what I love. I want to be, less than employee number 20, whatever it is. And it's so important to me that I have a mentor because I just spent my first year of professional experience working siloed. And I found this great company called Board Outlook, and Sarah Graf, who was my manager, and Steve Pell as well, who was the founder of the company, said to me, we will put you under our wing and we will teach you everything that we know. And they were, 20 years my senior, deep experience. I immediately knew they were the smartest people in the room in every room they went to. And like, how could you not take that job up? And I actually took a 30K pay cut from other opportunities to work there because I thought these guys are the ones that will actually pay off me long term.
It's hard to believe, like the mindset.
That's what you just said there.
That is
like, we talk about this so much off pod but Alex Moses says this, he goes, young people listening to this, get this idea out of your head that you're worth anything because you're not. And it's really a hard pill to swallow when you're a young person. He says, do you know how many people hit me up every single day wanting work? He goes, and Gary Vee says the same stuff. He goes, if you come and work for me, let me be real for it with you, you're actually the one that's winning, not me.
Yeah.
Because you're from that day forward going to be able to say, I worked with Alex Mosey.
Yeah.
He said, if you don't think I know that, you underestimate me.
Did that mindset come from external influence? Did it come from family? Did it come from reading books or podcasts? Because you seem so far beyond your years. It's hard to believe. Like, I was your age when I arrived in Australia, 23. And like, I didn't think like you at all.
I think it came from the ambition. Like when I think about what really shaped me at that time, it is that decision. And like I said kind of lightly that I wanted to financially retire when I was 25. Like, I really wanted that. And I didn't wake up a single morning and didn't think about that. And what I went through in this process of goal setting was when I said I want that target, I thought, okay, what would I reasonably have to do in the next 7 years to get there? And when you think like that, you immediately wipe out working at a Big Four accounting firm. It's not going to happen. You can't accelerate that fast. And what I pretty much wrote down was, you're going to work at startups because you need to work under founders and understand how to start a business, because the only way you're going to get that rich that fast is by either starting a company or investing in crypto. And I wasn't super keen on diving into the crypto sphere, mostly out of self-consciousness. But the company thing was really exciting. And that just shaped all of those decisions. When I left the first startup to go to the next one, that was the journey that I had to take. I looked at this company that was, doubling in size every year, and the founder had done it before, and a really senior manager who did sales, which I'd never experienced before, but I knew you need to sell as an entrepreneur, was saying she would mentor me and teach me everything she knew. Like, it was just the biggest no-brainer ever. It was most aligned with what I wanted for my future. And I think to the point of books and just general kind of psyche, like I do describe myself as a nerd, and I think a lot, probably think too much. And that, I think, is like the secret sauce, is that, every day I'm just thinking a lot about, am I on track, and what are the trade-offs of these different decisions that I'm making, and then you just never lose sight of what that goal is.
Can you just take us inside the mentoring for a minute? Like, it was Steffi, was it?
Sarah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sarah. So Sarah's a founder, and she's obviously you said they're the smartest people in every room they walk into. What an amazing endorsement. So how did that actually practically work? So did you have like a time in her calendar once a month, once a week? how did it work? Was it Zoom calls, in person, over a coffee? Did you get to ask questions? Was it a one-way dialogue? Was it a monologue, a dialogue? Like, how did the actual mentoring work?
So our relationship was at the workplace. And the beauty of a startup, and that startup in particular, was we were the sales team. Sarah and I were the sales team. So every day it was just us working together on these problems. It was me supporting her. And she knew, because I'd communicated to her what I wanted from this job, and I wanted to learn and I wanted to experience. So she put a lot of investment into me, and it just kept compounding because I was a sponge and actually soaking it up and giving her feedback and engaging with her.
So it was organic.
It was organic, yeah.
It wasn't, because I think a lot of people have this thing that when I got a mentor, on every second Thursday at 4 p.m, we're going to sit down and I'm going to sit there with a notebook and they're just going to pour information into me.
Yeah, we were just on the fly, man. Like we were tramming around Melbourne City, going to, we were selling software to the boards of directors. So we would like tram down to the board, like to meet the chair of some big publicly listed company, which, I can't disclose names and things like that. And we'd pitch them product, and I'd just watch this absolute gun of a boss just like,
so that's the key,
rip up this very senior room, and I was just watching and learning. And then eventually that was me. And I'd go to New Zealand and pitch the chairs of the board in New Zealand. And I was like really young, and I was in my probably oversized suit and all the rest. I do have mentor relationships like that now. I obviously left that company, and they're really busy people, and we still catch up, but it's not the same type of relationship where you're constantly working under them. And I knew that was going to be a huge lacking in my life. So I reached out to a couple of people and said, do you know anyone that's had a liquidity event, above like a 8-figure liquidity event? And I got teed up with a guy called Adam Clark, who's a Kiwi, and he's mentored me for the last 4 or 5 months or 6 months. And we do have a relationship like that in some sense, but it's a lot more free flowing, in that every couple of weeks I send him a digest on my thinking so that I stay front of mind in his brain. And if there's something that I want to ask him, or I want to talk about, or he wants to prod me on, we just jump on a 30-minute call, or he'll ring me while I'm walking. And one of the things that I think is really beautiful about that for founders is that you are working really long hours, and you can get stuck in the day-to-day operations of things, and you can lose sight of the bigger picture. That mentor meeting with Adam, like beyond just the feedback and experience that I'm gaining from him, one of the beautiful side benefits is that every 2 weeks I am forced to think about where the company's at and digest it and put it into a written format that's not going to be overbearing and someone can understand it. And so I have all of these reflections constantly happening, which is amazing. It's like going to therapy for your business in some ways.
What's the payoff for Adam? Do you do anything? As in expressing your gratitude. Like I made an investment many years ago, and it was one of the best investments I've done in maybe ever. And I get a dividend check every month. And the guy who got me into the investment, he sends me the check, and he manages the investment to this day. And every month when I get that check, I say this every month, and I mean this every month. Thank you, because I know how blessed I am to, be getting this check from you every single month. And I know what you guys do to make this happen. So thank you. And I think, it makes me feel good, but it also, we've got such a close relationship because he knows I genuinely appreciate it, and I never miss, ever. So what about you? Like, what do you do to make him feel that he's not wasting his time with you?
Yeah, I think it's one of the questions that people ask a lot is like, how do you start that relationship? Do you pay them? Did you get them equity? Whatever it is. And the conversation that we had initially was like, Adam, which I think is what a lot of the great mentors that I've been meeting lately say is, I really like working with young entrepreneurs, and I learn about things from you, and you'll learn things from me because you're in the current, and like I've done this before and things like that. And he said, but down the line, like I would love, if this is all looking really good and we're both being helpful towards one another, to have that emotional investment where you have a small amount of equity and you feel like you're a part of that journey. And that's where we're trending towards. He's not on the cap table yet, but will be. And then beyond that, I'm feeling like I should be doing more. But beyond that, like the gratitude is, I think that I express that through being really well organized and respectful of his time. Making sure that when he does meet with me for 30 minutes, we both feel like that was a really productive, helpful meeting. And you always finish those calls and you tell him, I appreciate you. And whenever you send the follow-up email, I appreciate you. And when you say you will do something, you go away and do it, which I think is where a lot of people fall off and maybe have had mentor experiences that amounted to nothing. It's like, how much respect are you throwing into that relationship? Do you understand like how busy you people are and how like a well-written email can make someone feel damn special and can make them feel helpful, which is what he's trying to get out of it.
Just a pause, yeah. I can tell you, being on that side, on his side, because I do mentor some young people, organization is the biggest sign of respect in my mind. And Eric's the same. You know, when you can see people have actually put some time aside to think through their thoughts and organize their thoughts well, as opposed from just, oh, mate, you haven't really thought too much, but yeah, you know, let's talk. And I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
you know, rather than, hey, I've sat down, I've done some work.
Talking about thinking, you said you think a lot. You feel like you think too much at times. When do you think? Like, what do you do? Do you block out your calendar, or you just think in the tram on the way to work or in the car, or what do you actually do because I've been recently driving, and usually I'm either listening to music or a podcast, and I'm trying not to listen to anything while I'm driving at the moment, and I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I've realized that I don't give myself nowhere near the amount of time I need to think. And it's giving me more and more clarity, right? And I don't know if you guys feel the same or not, but I don't do enough thinking at all. Like when you said that, you know, tomorrow you're going away by yourself, you know, because, you know, your missus is away and I'm just going to go and get a cabin. And I've never done that before, right? Another business partner of mine goes away 2 or 3 times a year for 2 to 3 days, locks himself in a room and just...
Bill Gates does
Bill Gates does do it.
So, and it's been helping me a lot lately, and I need to do a lot more of it. So I'm just wondering, with your calendar and startup phase, and you're doing everything, not everything, obviously you have 4 people there, but where do you fit it in? How do you do it?
Yeah. Part of the puzzle is that I did a lot of the thinking when I wasn't that busy, like when I was going through university. There are some pretty uglily thick journal entry books and things like that. It's gradually gotten less and less as I've gotten more busy, which is the unfortunate thing, but also the luck of what's going on. I think the biggest driver of like how much I think is just how much like intellectual things that I consume is. I read a book a week last year. I don't quite do that anymore, which makes me upset, but I read a lot. And while you're still reading someone else's thoughts and like you're consuming content and things like that, I find it just carries you through the rest of the day and you feel really in tune with like writing and thoughts being conveyed onto paper and their ideas kind of shift into your brain. Whereas when you're kind of scrolling on TikTok, your mindset during the day probably looks a little bit different to mine. Not saying that you watch TikTok, I'm talking about like general Instagram Reels. I mean, I do it too. And then it's really fun that you bring up the music thing. I do. It's been a recent change, but I have started just not listening to music on my commutes, which is where like pretty much the only rest of my day is outside of work is the commute. And I've actually found that to be really, really helpful. But no, I don't block time on my calendar. I read a lot, and I think that just like transpires throughout the day. And then I have these forced blocks before a mentor meeting or the weekend, for example, where we're not taking meetings. I do go into the office and I relax and I open a can of sparkling water and I chew some gum and I just like sit in front of my laptop and type. Another kind of beautiful part of the thinking, there are so many layers to this onion.
I'm just laughing at your description of a great weekend.
Yeah.
Like doing your poor partner. That sounds like a great time. Go in the office on a Saturday and chew some gum and time, you fucking sicko.
The other beautiful piece is the content. You know, I write on LinkedIn every single day, sometimes twice a day, and that's usually quite personal content. It's not like selling the product. It's like, this is how I feel. This is what is going on in my life right now. This is what's going on in the business. And that's like thinking in its own right as well.
I think everybody at this juncture, I did ask you, where do you want people to connect with you? Now would be a good time to mention, if you do want to follow and be closer to Hamish's brain, the place to do that is LinkedIn. So just Hamish McKay, MCKAY, and his company name, bring it right up on LinkedIn.
Speaking of, mentorship, team, etc., you've now got, by the sounds of it, you business partner yourself, you've got 2 extra staff now. So you had a management role with the other company, you had 10 on board underneath in your support management role. What are these other 2 doing, and how are you going with leadership?
Yeah, so we hired a head of UK to run the go-to-market there. And that was a really interesting role, and that we're still so young and early. We had some early traction there, and we just came across this amazing opportunity where the founder of a company called Patchworks, a big e-commerce software as a service company, he had just stepped down as his role as CEO. Dave Wiltshire is his name. This is a guy that's raised £12 million over the last 3 years, has built a product that has thousands of customers, and is leagues and leagues and leagues ahead of ours. And he sent me an email. I'd met him a couple of times. He sent me an email. He said, mate, I'm sick of fishing. This time off is killing me. I think it'd be a cool thing to represent a couple apps this year. And I immediately thought of you guys because there's no conflict of interest. And when you have a guy like that with the network that he has, the reputation, and you're effectively 4 months old, it was just a no-brainer hire. And a fortunate one in that it didn't require a lot of leadership because he is senior to me by, a long way. And so he's very autonomous, and it gives me some rope while I'm still trying to lease out a little bit of capacity and get to that point where you can actually be an effective leader. And then the other employee is a software developer in the US who Kara works with together. So I'm not really super ingrained with him. I let them fly. That's Kara's part of the business, and Dave and I are running ours. Leadership's an interesting one. It's one that I just sent an email to my mentor on the plane, and I said that it's actually something that I feel like I'm going to struggle with in the next few months as we do think about hiring other roles. I want someone to run the US or to run Australia, and I'm quite anxious about that because I feel limited on time, limited on resource, and it's challenging to think about. You put so much of yourself into running the company, and then you have to think about drawing some of that back and putting it into an employee. I'm struggling to fathom that right now, so I'm looking to get some guidance.
Yeah, well, that's just one of many problems that you're going to encounter on the journey, and I've encountered it many times. I have a software company, and I remember when I gave pretty much all of the MRR to the one employee. It was literally all of the MRR to one guy to come in to run it, and he's still there today, 12 years later.
There you go.
But it was, and that was discounted to get him. So it just shows you. Look, it's so fascinating. I want, again, just to we're already up over an hour, but again, because I know a lot of young people are listening to this, there's just one thing that I just took in my own notes here about you talking about your mindset in your 20s about where to go and where to start, and it's your focus was on where you would learn more, not earn more.
Yeah,
and I think that's really, really key. When I've got a son, 25, and he was trades. He works in trades, and I was talking to my wife saying it's time for Josh to get out of he was building boats. And, we got him into early bird there and working there without any pay, from the company. And we just said to him, listen, work under the founder and just make yourself useful, right? Just solve problems. Whatever he wants you to do, and you do to the best of your ability. And it's all about learning. And he's in a perfect environment with all these businesses coming in, all different types of businesses. He's getting to learn all their problems, their challenges, and it's just the perfect place to learn more. And if you focus on that, forget about the money and just focus on being valuable to. We said, what does it cost you to live? And mum and dad will help you along, so that you don't have to do any drain on the company's resources. And he's just learning at hyperspeed, and that's really got to be the focus. If you're a parent listening to this, that's the advice I would give parents: is where can you point your kids, if they're entrepreneurial in nature, to learn. Forget about making money right up now, because what they'll learn from what you learn from working alongside somebody is just so powerful. And as it turns out, that he has become useful, and the company is going to give him a piece of the company and all that sort of stuff. but you know, these things happen as a result of just being there. What would you say to like a young person listening to this? Like, is there any particular message you would give to like the 19-year-old version of you that was coming up and just hungry as hell? Like, what would be the 2 or 3 things you would say to the younger you?
Yeah, I think the best piece of work that I ever did was setting that like mid to long term goal of where I'd like to be and why that is, like the actual driver behind that. And you're allowed to say it's money or whatever it is. But I think the best piece of work was I decided on a goal and I thought about what the A to B journey would look like to get there. And I found that I felt genuinely excited about that journey and I felt confident that I could achieve it. And it was something that I wanted to do. And I think that I could have set a different goal entirely. And if I didn't like what the A to B looked like, I would have changed the destination, right? I know friends that I communicated that to, and we spoke about what would be involved in that process, and they would say, that's not for me. And I said, cool, you set another goal. But I think going through that is a really shaping experience, and it gives a lot of clarity to decision making, which I think at the end of the day is where most success comes from, is by not making dumb decisions and making a series of good ones. The other piece of advice that I give, and it's just because I'm such a huge advocate for it and it's so underrated, is working at startups, especially underrated in Australia or New Zealand. In the US, it's just slightly different because there's an actual culture there surrounding it. Here it's slightly dimmer, but like just think about that learning versus earning. Not to say that you don't earn money at startups. You can still earn a plenty fine paycheck, and hopefully you can get equity in the company, which is the most valuable resource. But like when you think about a corporate environment where you are filled in a room with 100 people who are just like you, and you're trying to stand out, and the people above you are tired and they're anxious and they're stressed, and a whole bunch of them don't love their job, which like is not true in all work environments, I know, but I think when most people think about accounting firms or whatever it is, there's some recognition that there are a lot of people in there that don't necessarily love what they do, and they're on that ladder. Mind you, I've never worked in one, so please take this with a grain of salt. When you think about a startup, you will be one of 10, one of 20. You'll probably be the only person your age there. Hopefully everyone is 10 years older than you, so you can learn as much as you can from them. The beautiful thing is you are coming in with a fresh perspective, and there will be problems to solve. There are holes in these small businesses because they have resource constraint. A big company does not have resource constraint. You could be the guy that solves that problem. You immediately have the sexiest thing on your CV that other people your age that are doing the normal route do not have. They don't have that differentiator. And that's exactly where our business birthed from, right? There was this hole in the company that I went in and solved. And I remember the second startup I worked at, we were literally building the sales function. It did not exist. We both got hired at the same time. Before that, it was the founder selling. And let's say, for example, if I didn't have order editing behind me, I would have left that company if I was to move on. And I would have said, I built the sales function at a startup and we generated X amount of revenue and there was 2 of us. Like that is hugely powerful. And people think like 3 years at Deloitte looks sexy on your CV. Think about the specific project work that you are like a majority owner in that you can get from working at a startup. So please look at those options. And I mean, it's funny, like I would just say converse with a bunch of people who are 6 years down the line and think about what they did with their lives and how happy they are and where they're at and where they see the next 5 years going from there. And you'll find some varying opinions. And a lot of that will be based on the decisions that they made when they're younger.
Great advice.
I think Eric said it best. Beyond your years, mate.
Yeah,
well done.
I can actually sit here, right, humbly, to say that I've never spoken to someone in their early 20s with so much wisdom.
Absolutely.
And it's reflected in the business, right? Like the business, that doesn't look like it was built by a 22-year-old. You know, it's really well done. And 20, 27, 20, whatever, 20s, you fuckers.
We need to meet more.
You're disgustingly talented. So seriously, like honestly, I'm 50 and I went to Steve Bartlett's thing up in Brisbane. He's 32. And I just turned to Eric and I said, I'm just not I've just outclassed, outbrained, outworked on every front. There's just some people that are just so incredibly talented. Oh, it's not all talent. I mean, you work as well, but his work ethic's beyond mine. Everything's beyond
nuts.
Yeah, there's just
I
these
love
people.
Stephen Bartlett.
And you're on the same trajectory, and you know your mum and dad must be really proud of you, and I'm sure we're going to read about you and in press and you know one of these stories like Dave and all these other success stories that come out of this great country of ours. So, what's next for you, mate? Like, what's the plan? You're just going to keep working your ass off, scaling it, and sell it, or you got bigger ambitions? What's the plan?
Yeah. And in 3 weeks, I shoot off to the US for a 90-day go-to-market roadshow, which I'm so excited for. It's my first piece of solo travel. Would you believe?
Wow.
Yeah. But it's going to be this crazy business trip as well. I can't wait. And yeah, I mean, we hope to hit $1 million run rate at the end of the year. Try and get to 2 come June next year. And see what it turns into. But I think the important thing around like any startup journey is that yes, you start it with a liquidity event in mind, and you are doing it to make money. You know, it's part of the purpose behind it. I'm just curious to see where the point is where you think, well, for me personally, where I think I would be more excited to teach or lecture or do something online like around that area or mentor. Then grow auto editing from a $2 million a year company to a 20 or a 5 to a 10. And I'm interested to see where that point is. I have an idea of it. I mean, my LinkedIn bio is building a $20 million Shopify app in public because I think that's broadly...
You mean the value of the company?
Value of the company, yeah. I think that's broadly where I will start to get less excited around what we're doing, but you can't know. But at the end of the day, I did start this to pursue something that I personally feel is deeper and more meaningful than business-to-business software, which is what I kind of uncovered when I was younger. And I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about that. Whenever that day happens.
It's on its way. There's no doubt in my mind it's on its way. And I think for you, when you get to the US, I think you will come back a different person. We just had an entrepreneur on this morning on the pod before this session recording, and he moved to the US 3 years ago and sold his company within 13 months. You know, it's another world over there. And if you can be successful here in this little market, it's totally different over there. And you'll come back, your brain will be stretched. We had a young entrepreneur in here, which I'd like to connect you guys. He's raised $47 million from Microsoft for his startup. He's got 9 million users. And I think you guys should we'll just connect you offline. And I just think it'd be good for you to just have him in your network to just bounce ideas and
yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you're on your way, man. Well done.
That's one more piece of sage advice, I think, is the brain stretch that you can get from moving to a bigger market. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest uplifts that I had is when I moved from New Zealand to Australia. The talent and the people and the ambition surrounded me in Melbourne was 5x what existed in Auckland. And that's exactly why I'm so excited about the US, because I know the US is 10x from where Melbourne is. And I can't wait for what that does to you, the challenge.
You're wrong. It's 50x.
50x.
I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to be chatting with you in 12 months and you'll be living there.
Yeah. Have to figure out how to get a visa.
The pod we recorded this morning, we spent 30 minutes just on visa.
Yeah.
You'll get a visa.
I've been through the weasel.
Yeah. You'll get there. Yeah. No, we're very excited for you. And mate, thank you for coming on. It's a great story. We can't wait to follow it. There's nothing better than a great idea with great people. And then when they're young Aussies and Kiwis, it's even better again. So guys, please drop a comment below and let us know what you thought of the pod. Did it inspire you? Who are you going to share it with? Think about a young Australian or an old Australian or Kiwi, but think about when you listen to these things, one of the secrets to success in my mind and building great networks is giving it away. Like when you find something great, share it. And yes, we have a vested interest in doing that. But if we had a pod that came out today, released today, that was a woman in here that teaches women how to, become sales professionals and claim autonomy over their lives again and meaning and go into a meaningful career. And there was a number of women in my life that I thought of immediately. And I just go, hey, you'll enjoy this one. So if you know a young person that is looking for direction, looking for inspiration, please share the pod, because that's the whole reason we bring these guys in and that we do this work, is to get voices like this and amplify them and shine a spotlight on the best of us amongst us in our tribe here in Australia and New Zealand, and that's why we're doing it. So, but it's a communal effort, right? All of you watching this have thousands and thousands of people following you collectively, and if you learn to give it away, and this is what the US does so well, is that they have this abundance mentality. So share the love, get it out there, let people know about Hamish McKay, and let them know about this incredible idea. And you'll find that good things flow to you when you just start doing that. You become that person that spreads the love, spreads the positivity. With that said, guys, thank you for watching this episode of Unemployable. Like, subscribe, drop a comment for our main man, Hamish McKay, and your business partner up in Canada. Thanks for coming in, buddy, and we wish you all the best. And when you sell it for $1 billion, make sure you come back and remember us little people here on the Gold Coast.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for asking great questions.
Thanks, cheers.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.